So what's happening, bro? It's like you say, Happy Black History Month, man. What you know? Where you at as we start this Black History Month in the midst of these times that we are in? What does Black History Month mean to you, for you?
Man, you know, I'm kind of all over the place, as you all know, as you know personally.
All over.
We just finished, you know, all over the place, man. We just finished this candidacy. So, man, I've been rereading Letter from Birmingham Jail by Dr. King.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reading Why Can't We Wait? It's in that book, Why Can't We Wait?
Why we can't wait?
So
Yeah.
I've been reading, or I actually read, yeah. So I read around, you know, what took place, what was taking place in Birmingham, prior to him, Dr. King being arrested. So that's kind of where I am, man, at
Okay.
this moment.
Okay. Okay. What's that mean though? What's that mean? What's that mean for you as you reread King and
That
Letter
means
from? Yeah.
this. It means I'm processing. I'm just still processing, man.
Okay.
In terms of Black History Month, I'm like, why can't every day be Black History? Black history is American history, right? So that's kind of where I am.
Okay. 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 I can dig it a bit. I can dig it. I guess. You know, it's kind of at a loss, but okay. You know.
It is.
Yeah. It's interesting. We said, and I didn't read it, but we said we were going to dive back into the
Yeah.
miseducation of the Negro,
Yeah.
um, and I didn't quite make it there yet because
Yeah. Me neither.
I actually been reading this text here. Let me see if I can get it into focus for y'all. No country, no future in this country. Work by a brother, um, Andre Johnson. Um,
Shout out to Andre Johnson.
you know, and this work, he's looking at Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, and it's interesting because I've never studied Henry McNeil Turner. I hear the name all the time, and but I look at him. It talks about the prophetic pessimism of Bishop Henry McNeil Turner. Essentially, that there ain't no future for us in this country. And this is what he's saying back in the 1890s, you know what I mean? Early 1900s, you know. And the prophetic witness as to why, and it's like one piece in particular is for me, even though I wasn't reading Carter G. Woodson like we talked about, right? Reading this piece from Brother Johnson's work on Henry McNeil Turner, on Bishop Turner. This is what Bishop Turner says, because Bishop Turner was big on immigration. I gotta
Very big.
I gotta stress immigration for y'all so that y'all don't get it confused with immigration.
Right.
Immigration meaning we leave here and go somewhere else.
Hmm.
And in talking about his view on immigration, he says, quote, "For as long as we remain among whites, the Negro will believe that the devil is black and that the Negro favors the devil, and that God is white and the Negro bears no resemblance to him." He says that this staying amongst whites would lead many black people trying to get white, and the other half will spend their days trying to be white men's scullions in order to please the whites, and the time they should be giving to the study of such things as will dignify and make our race great will be devoted to studying about how unfortunate they are in not being white.
Whew, I gotta breathe on that one, man.
That's why I took an inhale. But you see, The reason I bring that up, right, and I think about that in the context of what we were talking about with Carter G. Woodson, right, because like I was sending you from ASLA, this American Society of African Literature and History or something like that. I can't remember. Organization founded by Carter G. Woodson. Of course, the name changed when we were no longer Negro or colored or whatever, and so the name has been updated. But in terms of the history of Black History Month, it happened after Carter G. Woodson was at some 3-week long expose on black history, and the bunch of intellectuals that gathered together and even common folk that gathered together to witness this. And he was like so in awe of the conversation that came out of it and the hope that came out of that gathering that he was like, yo, we got to do this every year, because if we study our history, we will remember our greatness and we will begin to do great things again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what we do anymore. I'm not even going to debate that with folk, right? That's not what we do anymore. Well, we say we do that, and we'll celebrate quote unquote history. But it goes back to what Bishop Turner was saying, though, that so long as we remain around whites, the Negro will believe that the devil is black. That and the time that should be given to study of such things as will dignify and make our race great. The time that should be given to studying Black history in such a way that we are aroused to our greatness will rather be devoted to studying about how unfortunate it is to be black. Or as I would say, as I've come to understand now, we catch a case of the if we were whites.
Yeah.
If we were white, ... If we were white, we wouldn't be treated this way. If we were white, we would be treated that way. If we were white, we would be able to do this. If we were white, we wouldn't have to do that. If we were white, if we were whites, if we were whites. And from that affliction of the if we were whites, and this is how we celebrate Black history, y'all. Like, bear with me. When we look at Black history, what we tend to look at is it is a celebration of our struggle for equality, right? It is a celebration of all that we have gone through to come where we are, so on and so forth. It is a celebration of the history of our struggle to be accepted by whiteness as being created equal in the eyes of God. And when you hold that against the backdrop that, nigga, we ain't equal.
Right.
What it becomes is this constant reminder. Because it is clear that we suffer in this country because of our blackness.
Yes.
That is the reason that we suffer. That is the only reason. Let me not say the only, right? Because some of us are lazy. Some of us don't educate ourselves. Some of us don't take risks. Some of us. Yeah. But the foundational reason because there's some of the whites that don't do those things either, but they ain't living the same way. They don't have the same experience with this society determining their identity. Foundational to our experience is we know that the major obstacle in our way is our blackness, which reinforces that desire to be against our blackness, to separate from our blackness. Because we know if we could just get rid of this blackness thing, man, I'm so smart, I hustle so hard, I work harder than everybody on the job, I'm do this, I'm that, I'm the best here, I'm the best there, but for this wretched thing called blackness, if I could just get rid of this wretched thing called blackness. And as we study our history, all we see is this history of struggle for people to be accepted and continue to be denied, accepted but denied, to be accepted but denied, to be accepted but denied, to be accepted but denied. And no matter how great it is, it's always the same story. We desire to be accepted but denied, to be accepted but denied, primarily because we don't look at the history beyond our history in this American context. Our studies of Black history rarely go back any further than 1619. Not in any depth. We may talk about pharaohs, and we may talk about kingdoms, and we may talk about empires, and you know what I mean. We may mention that stuff, but we don't really dive into it. It ain't part and parcel of our celebration of who we are. And so it's like Black History Month has become this opportunity for us to remind ourselves of all that we have done and must continue to do as we try to be white.
Yeah, man, and I feel you on that because that's part of my struggle too. You know, we're gonna use a month to kind of, look at our struggle from this gaze of whiteness. Right? You know, but my thing is, a month cannot help us to remember what has been dismembered, and this is what I mean. I want to talk to that piece that you brought up. It's going to be hard for us as descendants of American chattel slavery to remember, what happened pre 1619, right? What happened in the 16th century, specifically with our family. Um, in terms of my personal family, I met both of my grandmothers, my father's mom, my mother's mom. Uh, my grandfathers were already dead by the time I was conceived. My 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 paternal grandfather died in 1958, I think 57 or 58, something like that. And my maternal grandfather died in 1971. So anything that goes beyond my grandparents, my grandmothers, I don't know. I know I've been to the area that my grandmother, grandfather, they were born. Sumter, South Carolina. They geet you. But I don't know anything else. And that's the furthest, I'm talking about both sides of my family. That's the furthest that I know is who they are, where they come from as far as the state. But I have to get some swab, some DNA swab, right? To reconnect me to, you know, my cultural and, all of that stuff in West Africa. And that's it. So to your point, systemically, we are looking at our heritage from the gaze of whiteness. You know, rather than now processing this in this way, as I'm thinking, processing it in this way as to who am I and what do I do to continue to evolve in my becoming and be a part of beloved community. That's a part of a dismemberment as well. As
But
we are,
we're not even looking for Black history to remember us.
no, we're not. And that's the point that I'm making, right? Is that there is no sense of community first and foremost. And number one, there's really no sense of self. So how can there be a sense of community? How can there even be a month if we have no sense of self? And so this is the thing that I'm really working through because it's going back to the question that you asked me. This is the thing that I'm working through, bruh.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Nah, it's like, as we approach Black History Month, like, what are we approaching? What are we
Right.
doing? You know, because 9 times out of 10, what the mainstream tells us about Black History Month, and we typically buy into the mainstream. What the mainstream tells us about Black History Month is this is a time so that America could come to appreciate that Black history is American history and that we are part of this. Again, it is about us being accepted by whites. We want people to
Right.
celebrate Black history so that they will accept us as being American.
Right.
So that they would come to see all that we have done while we've been in America and say, oh, look at those loyal and patriotic and loving darkies. Man, we've been bad to them. Let's accept them as human beings because look at what they have done for America. And we celebrate it for ourselves so that we can be proud of what we have done in order to be American.
Right. And that's something to really unpack because I said that, right? I said personally in this podcast,
Yeah.
Black history is American history. Now, here's what I mean by that. Because I learned now we got to define terms, right?
Yeah. Hey, if we gonna do this daggone thing, we gonna be clear about what we saying.
Right. So here's what I mean by Black history being a part of American history. Part of that heritage is what we have been used for. First of all, we have been dehumanized, right? That's a big dismemberment. That's something we got. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother conversation. But Black history is American history in the sense of this. Prior to 1790, and you can Google this, but prior to 1790, I say it like this: America was not even at the top tier of the totem pole when it comes to wealth of a country. But by 1815, America is number 2. They're the second wealthiest country. So when I say Black history is American history, I'm talking about economic growth and development. So part of history, when we talk about this whole idea of history, using this normative gaze of whiteness, they gauge history by war. They gauge history, death is a part of that war. They gauge it by war and death.
Conquest.
Conquest. And so with conquest, what does it produce? It produces economic resources. So the conquest of them going to those shores in Western Africa or wherever they went to grab us, this is conquest. They grab us, take us away. It's not that clear cut, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying it to just kind of define this term. And we grow and harvest their crops and make their money. So as a result, there is a cultural normative gaze that's happening in that particular system of American chattel slavery.
I get that. I do. I get that.
And so when we talk about Black history is American history, this is what I'm saying, is that we are part of that history. Now, we may be on the bottom end of the totem pole of that, but for me, I feel like this. If I'm gonna say this term that Black history is part of American history, what I can't do is I can't be in denial, just like them other folk who are in denial. Oh, let's accept them. No. We're trying to heal our memory, right?
That's what.
So with that being said, what we got to do is now what we get to do is we get to really look at and dissect really who we are in terms of where this nation is. Whether it be economic resources, whether it be, I'll use this term, abolition and freedom, right? To speak boldly to the evils of this whiteness institution, right? This evil institution of whiteness, this evil institution of white supremacy. I can't even talk. But that's what I'm speaking
But see,
to.
I'm gonna go different though.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna blow everything out the water. All norms of blackness out the water, right? Hold on now. Black history is not American history.
Why not?
We should not want it to be American history. We have not yet determined if we want it to be American history. We black people have not. We don't control his story. We don't control American history. Wait a minute. Hear me out. We don't control history. So the minute we try to make black history American history, we enter a negotiation. We enter a negotiation with white power as to the acceptance of our history as part of American history. And they will set the terms for how that history is taught, how that history is accepted. They will shape the terms for how that history is grafted into the narrative of America. Now, if we're looking at black history as American history being a stain on American history, a stain on American exceptionalism, a stain on democracy and freedom and capitalism and all of that kind of stuff, then yeah, now we're on to something. But that ain't how we embrace in black history and how we want black America to embrace black history. We want people to embrace black history as part of the greatness that is America. We haven't yet, because again, the original purpose when Carter G. Woodson wanted us to study black history was not to improve America. It was to repair the minds that have been broken by America of black people.
Correct.
It was not to repair. Now we're looking at black history as a thing that is meant to repair America. A black history as a thing that is meant to make America better. Black history as a thing that at best makes us better so that we are more willing to contribute to America. It is not black history so that we are made whole, that we see ourselves as redeemed in the imago Dei that had been stripped of us by white supremacy. Now, once we embrace our history and remember our creation in the image of God and wish to approach America from a remembered position, yeah, then we can negotiate with strength as to how our history is accepted in America. And it won't be on their terms. No, you don't get to decide what of our history you get to pick and you get to choose and what we get to speak about in public space and we don't get to speak about in public space. We don't get to speak about the era of lynching. We don't get to speak about the many slave rebellions, insurrections. Look how much they're talking about this insurrection. We could never form our mouth to talk about an insurrection. These white folks talk about how they've been silenced, but they still got networks where they can talk about insurrection on the Hill as not being insurrection. You ain't heard a nigga yet celebrating Nat Turner. Not in the media.
Out to Nate Parker.
Right. And you saw what the hell he caught.
Yeah, they blackballed that brother.
Oh man.
He's doing great work in American skin, though. God bless you, Doc.
Amen. The Lord give you strength and courage. Woo!
I'm going to have to push back on you, though, bruh.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very personal because I can only speak to me.
Amen.
Because we have a dismembered community, right? So I'm going to speak to me.
Amen.
If you ask me, Jimmy, what is your nationality? You know what I'm going to say?
American.
I'm American.
Yeah.
Right? I'm American. Now, I do love the disposition of your second argument of Black American, right? So, in terms of that whole idea of blackness, and I'm just paraphrasing what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
As far as your second argument, as it being a stain, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, this is how I embody this, is that I'm trying to remember who I am. So sacredly, with my conviction, with my faith, being an American
Mm-hmm.
and black, uh, I am I am remembering for myself as a descendant of American chattel slavery, my ancestors being slaves. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering my ancestors, and I am serving my community. As a pastor of a local black church, whatever.
Yeah, but then we got to be
But here,
clear though. No, 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 no. I got.
hold
No,
on.
wait, wait,
Let
wait.
me
I
finish.
need you to
No, let me
explain this. No,
finish.
no, no, wait, wait. I
No.
need you to explain
Go
this.
ahead.
I need you to
Go ahead.
explain this to people because I
Right.
want you to be clear on what you mean by remember. Because most times when we say remember, we just mean, oh, I remember that my ancestors were slaves. But when you say remember my ancestors, you know what I mean? I believe
I hear you.
that you speaking about something far more deeper than just calling to mind what happened.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to interrupt
Right.
you because I want you to be clear on it. I
Yeah.
don't want people to just hear you saying remember and be like, oh yeah, I remember my ancestors were slaves. No.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I'm saying remember, I am really speaking to a deep level for me of their theology, their psychology, their sociology, you know, even their physiology, the physical strain of bending over to cut crops and pick cotton and sow seeds in a field where there are no trees, there is no shade. You're working 15, 18 hours a day. And I have the right to not just attend one HBCU. I'm at my third HBCU, right? I could have went to a PWI, you know. I chose to go to an HBCU. But I have somewhat of this right because of all the hell they went through. You know, the church that I serve at, for instance, I'll go a little deeper. My father planted this church. I didn't want to do the work. My mom pastored it. But because for me, my conviction, my call, my vocation, in the sense of my faith in God from an embodied faith tradition that was handed to me from my parents and grandparents and so on and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I decided to make this pastoral vocation at this local church my call.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, this is what remembering looks like. It ain't about me. So therefore, I have a charge. We ain't ended this yet.
Right, right, right,
I'm
right, right.
not gonna
That's
say the whole thing.
it.
And so that's what it looks like. But to go deeper, I'm looking at this thing from the gaze of this whole idea that this blackness or black people is toxic to white supremacy America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, my argument is going to be this: it's still American history because y'all made this. And so as a result, I am going to embody the pedagogy of Henry McNeil Turner. I'm going to embody the pedagogy of African, Harriet Tubman. I'm going to embody that pedagogy of Carter G. Woodson. You know, that's how I'm looking at it. You are absolutely correct, though, in the sense of because we have this systemic gaze of whiteness that's rooted in white supremacy, we have been duped, we have been halved, we have been took, we have been bamboozled, led
Run
astray,
amok.
run amok to be like, no, we want to be American, so accept me. I ain't saying that. I'm American on my own terms because I've been empowered because of the work that I have been doing
And then see, that's what
to
I'm that
remember. Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at, right? Like,
yeah.
and that's where I want to go and be as bombastic as to say Black history is not American history. No. Why? Let me say.
I'm
Wait,
going to
wait, wait,
disagree
wait.
with you on that one.
I know, but it ain't yet. It ain't yet because it first has to remember a dismembered people. If we don't use it first to remember ourselves, all it becomes in the American context is a reminder of our brokenness. Even in the midst, even with the triumph is in the midst of brokenness. So the deeper you said something that triggered me, right? Like into that deeper level of remembering, right? Like under it, because I listen to you, Doc, and maybe I hear what I want to hear, but what I think I hear when I listen to you over all of these episodes that we talk about, and as much as you talk about remembering a dismembered people, right? That you have a people whose humanity was dismembered in every facet.
Yes. By other folk.
But right. And then we bought into it. But of course we bought into it because we were programmed to buy into it. And we had no choice but to buy into it. There was a system in place that enforced us buying into it. Dismembering ourselves. We even call it now post-traumatic slave syndrome, the continued dismemberment of ourselves.
Yes.
Until we remember ourselves. Put ourselves back together so that we are whole. I don't want us to be using our history to say anything to America. It is more important that our history remembers ourselves.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I want to be clear, y'all. Like when I say remember, what I'm meaning is resuturing that which was dismembered. A people was dismembered in mind, body, and spirit. Yes. When Carter G. Woodson talks about Black history, he's talking about it from that sense, from the sense of if we do this, we will remember ourselves. Not we will prove to America that we are worthy of being American. Fuck that. We know we are. Right. You know, and the crazy thing about it is, you say embody him, Henry McNeil Turner. This is the complexity of everyone, right? Yep. So Henry McNeil Turner, man, I don't even know how he sees some of these things, right? Like, Henry McNeil Turner is said to have identified Lincoln as Pharaoh and America as Egypt. Beautiful by my standards.
He said, he's right.
But wait, he is right. And yet, and still, he encouraged Black people to join the Union Army.
Why do you think he did that?
No, wait. He did that because it was time for us to show that we were American. Like, you make that analogy, and in the Bible, we did not see Moses encourage the Israelites to join Pharaoh's army.
Right. Here's a question for you, real quick. Who's really American?
That's the question. But see, here's the thing. Because we are not a remembered people, because we have not remembered ourselves, we have no say in the definition of who is American. None. We have no say unless white folks approve of what we say. Because we ourselves are not remembered, and so we're still looking for their approval. We are not at the state of life where we say, I could give a damn what y'all think.
This is what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to do what Richard Pryor did. Use the term nigga and make it a term of endearment. This is what I'm going to do. Bump what they say.
Yeah.
Because I have done the work and continuing to do deep stitching work. Here's what I'm going to say. Black history is American history from this vantage point of this. Now, I happen, without any choice, be born under these systemic, evil, racist, supremacist structure.
Mm-hmm.
I had no say in that.
Mm-mm.
So therefore, here's what I can say. I'm black and I'm American, goddamn.
But here's the
That's
thing.
why go ahead.
Here's the thing. We can say that once we are remembered. But as a dismembered people, what that always seems to amount to is us trying to prove our worth to real America. You know, like we still left at a space where we trying to prove our worth. Like, and I don't even understand that, right? Like the whole idea that we need to join. Like here's what Bishop Turner said in terms of why we should join the Union Army. When you ask why did he say that, I'm gonna tell you why he said that. I'm gonna tell you why he said that. I'm gonna tell you exactly in his words. Let me find the place where he said that. I had it outlined for you, for us, so we can have this discussion.
Because I want to really put this in context, bro. As you find that.
We can. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
1890 Henry McNeil Turner is like 1967 Martin Luther King Jr.
Here we go.
Just like, go ahead.
I found it.
Go ahead.
Here's why he supports the war, or black people joining the war. Quote:
Joining
the Union Army. In all parts of this afflicted country, families have been broken. Fathers, husbands, and sons have been stricken down, and mourning and desolation have gone into thousands of families. But our race has been free from those afflictions.
Here's what it sounds like to me. This is me processing. I don't know anything. This is what it sounds like to me. The fight is deeper than, bringing unity to two different Americas. The fight is there's something that's invisible there.
See, Doc.
And if we join it, but this is what makes the heritage of America. And I'm gonna stick with this. This is what makes Black history American history, because this thing has really jacked us up so bad. And here's the thing,
dude.
Jabril, we really have no answer,
dude. Wait a minute. Before you go all there. Wait. Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
This is what I'm saying. Because we're already in a jacked up system.
Mm-hmm.
It's like trying to really repair a jacked up system.
But you're missing the point.
Only way
you're missing the point in his statement. You're missing the point in his statement.
Go.
To me, and maybe you're not missing this point, and you'll explain to me that you're not missing this point. In all parts of this afflicted country by the war, families have been broken. Fathers, husbands, and sons have been stricken down, and mourning and desolation have gone into thousands of families. But our race has been free from these afflictions. What the fuck do you mean our race has been free from these afflictions? Our families have been broken. Fathers, husbands, daughters, sons, everybody sold off at a whim. People killed at a whim. How have we been free from the afflictions of this crazy shit? We had already paid the cross. Millions of our ancestors were killed on these shores. Forget the millions more that didn't make it to these shores. Forget the millions more that were killed elsewhere. Just in America, millions were killed. Only a couple 100,000 were killed in the Civil War. That pales in comparison to the millions that we gave. People couldn't even have families, because they knew they would be separated at a moment's notice. But somehow our mindset tells us that we got to join the war effort so that our families can put blood in the game, skin in the game, like their families have been put in the game. And
we've been doing that though.
I know, and I think it's stupid. I know, and I think it's stupid. But
here's the thing: it's the reality, and that's a part of the history,
and that's a part of the inferiority.
Fine, but here is the thing: it doesn't negate this. It still makes it a part of American history.
Yes, I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not saying it doesn't. What I'm saying is when we focus on that, and we haven't, because we ain't done shit as a people. We as a people still find ourselves in 2021 in a situation where we have absolutely no power in America. We have
You're
potential
right.
power, but we still find ourselves in a situation where we have nothing more than the hope of potential power.
But here's the thing, Jabril. Here's another reality.
Mm-hmm.
We never will, right?
No, that's not a
We
reality.
never will.
It's not a reality.
Well,
I refuse to
I
believe
think
that
it is.
reality. I know that's,
Well,
but then
well,
again, that is the
well.
inferiority that says we don't have any choice but live in
No,
this reality.
no, that no inferiority. My thing is this: you're saying this because now I'm missing it. Here's what you're saying: is that because I think we're really saying the same thing when we look at it systemically.
Oh, we are, but
Here's a
this is what.
question for you.
Okay,
Here's a question: why do you want power
I don't
in
care about
America?
power. Look, for
So what do
me,
you care
wait,
about?
wait. In America, if I am in
Uh huh.
America, why I want power in America is the
Right.
understanding that white folks are not in control of everything. If there is to be equality in this system of government that we talk about, and all men, quote unquote, to include women, are created equal, then power should be shared equally. If we look at the Holy Trinity, the perichoresis that exists within the divine, where three are one and one is three. It is not that the Father is greater than the Son or greater than the Spirit. It is not that the Spirit is less than the Son or is less than the Father. It is that they are equal. To tell me that I live in a country where somehow your voice is more worthy than mine, I refuse to
Yeah,
accept.
that's fine. But here's a systemic reality, and I think this is why that pessimism that title is so appropriate for Henry McNeil Turner. Because one of the things that he discovered, just like the disparity of Dr. King in 1967, is they discovered this. Systemically, that would never happen.
Okay, okay. But this gets to the thing that we're talking about, right? Because Henry McNeil Turner realizes that, right? He realizes
Hmm.
that, and he says, I'm trying to find the exact quote that, and maybe I won't find it, but he says that this is the reason that he emphasizes immigration,
Right.
and he keeps beating the drum on immigration because he wants black people to begin to recognize and accept the call to immigration, right?
Hmm.
And what I said in reading him is that before we even get to the call of immigration, like, or here's what he said, like the critiques everything that I said, it was the same thing. But before we get to immigration, we must recognize and accept the call to self-determination.
Right.
We can't
I
even
agree with
we
that.
can't even determine for ourselves. And this is why I say no, black history is not American history, because we got to first get to the point where we can determine for ourselves what we want, what we are, who we are, where we want. Like, I'm not saying that there's another form of governance better than democracy. I'm not saying that, although I'm not saying that there isn't either. What I am saying is we as a people have never sat in convention and decided, you know what, we want to be part of America. We, you know what,
Right.
we believe in democracy. You know what, we believe in capital. We have never done this as a people. We have never determined for ourselves, you know what, we want to try and do this. It has been told to us and we have bought into it.
Or, or when we have done it, they drop bombs on us.
Yeah,
Right.
right, that too. They dropped the
but
bomb,
but
huh? Yeah,
so this is to me the complexity of this issue.
right.
Because when we try to do something, who was it that talked about the sovereign, us having the sovereignty? You mentioned it.
When?
What's his name? Oh,
Who?
was
About
it
what?
Delaney? Was it Delaney?
About
I can't
what?
remember. Um, about having a parcel of land, and we all come to, we had a sovereign state. I can't remember, dude. I
Oh,
can't
I mean,
remember.
there's a lot of people that talked about that. I don't know if you were talking about the Freedmen's Bank stuff I shared with you recently. I don't know, because they were talking about that in that.
Yeah, we
Bishop McNeil Turner was talking about land. It's
yeah.
like, but
So here's the thing about this whole idea of self determination, right? That's still a part of our history.
But yes, but here's the thing: when Carter G is encouraging the study of Black history, it is so that we could begin to determine for ourselves who we are going, and that's not what we are using it for anymore.
Listen,
most of us now this is the discrepancy that I wanted to make, because you say you are doing the work, and you do the work. You know what I mean? Right. But the majority of us
as a community,
right,
is what you're talking about. I totally agree. You get no argument from me. But here is the thing. Here is something that you said, because we're still teasing out this whole idea of Black history being American history. This is something that you said. Until we as a community, right, we're suturing. We're doing that work, and it's not just a scattered few, right? Then we can make the assertion that Black history can be American history. As I look at or listen to or read prophets, Bishop Henry McNeil Turner is a prophetic voice.
He told them
he's different, and he's different than that guy Richard Allen.
Mm-hmm.
You got your Richard Allen AMEs, but you got your Henry McNeil Turner AME.
They put the A in AME. They put the A in AME. He was African.
Listen, Bishop Henry McNeil Turner had a friend by the name of William J. Simmons.
Okay.
William J. Simmons wrote this thick volume. It's in public domain. It's called Men of Mark.
Okay.
And Bishop Henry McNeil Turner wrote the preface about his best friend, William J. Simmons, who was at the time, I think he was over the National Baptist Convention.
Okay.
So here, Bishop Henry McNeil Turner was, over the AMEs, These are guys that are suturing, and that's why I'm using this as a prophetic witness. They are suturing people who have been dismembered to become a community, regardless of your denomination, regardless of all of that. We are suturing you to become together. The reason why I am making this prophetic argument that Black history is American history, because I am, in my little role, I am trying to embody what those prophetic voices, regardless to denomination, regardless to, academic achievement, regardless to any of that, they are trying their best to suture not only themselves, not only their families, not only their denominations, but all of Black people who have been dismembered in this country.
I would say this, bro, because I like where you're going there, right? And like I said, I see the I see the distinction between, and it's shaping my distinction in this way. I would say to white America, from Blackness, Black history is American history. I would say to Black people, Black history is ours. Meaning, because we don't celebrate Black history, or commemorate is probably a better word. We don't commemorate Black history as a broken people, as a people who have been dismembered.
Ooh, that's good, Doc.
We commemorate Black people as if we pretend like white supremacy was not effective.
January 6th proves
Yo, like, we pretend white supremacy was not effective, and we have to understand that if white supremacy is effective, the goal of white supremacy was Black subjugation. White supremacy and Negro subordination. That was the goal of white supremacy. And if white supremacy is as effective as we admit that it is, then we have to also understand that it brought about the black inferiority complex that Bishop Henry McNeil Turner said would come about so long as we stayed among white folks.
He said it.
He was a prophet.
He was a prophet, Doc.
And so for us, black history needs to get back to what Dr. Carter G. Woodson originally hoped.
Yes.
Forget America. Wait a minute. Don't go crazy, y'all. When I say forget America, you gotta forget America so you can remember yourself. And then you can figure out what to do with America. Then you'll be more equipped to remember America. Because America's a dismembered place too.
It's very dismembered.
But don't we always say hurt people hurt people?
That's what we say, Doc.
We ain't remembered. Clearly, we have not remembered ourselves. And so my thing is, before we get down the road trying to shove black history down white folks' throat so that they accept us, maybe we ought to use black history so that we can accept ourselves.
Yeah. Man, you said something powerful, because this is, to your point now, as we're, hashing this thing out.
Iron sharpens iron, Doc. Iron sharpens iron.
That's what it is, Doc. And I'm hearing you loud and clear. I totally agree, because here's what we can say. Once we have been remembered as a community, we can make a claim to say we are American or we are not.
And we have the freedom to decide what it means for us to be. You can be whatever kind of American you want to be.
Yeah.
If we want to be the type of American that is so staunchly pro-black that we end up with a black state of Georgia, that's the American that we want to be. It's a free country. And we freely choose to band together because we freely know that we can't trust y'all. I don't know what the conclusion will be, but we can decide what type of American we want to be, and we comfortable being American that way. Clearly, look at this woman Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress, Doc. Like, yo, all of these people trying to run from her now. I'm like, yo, if my black ass had said any of the things, I wouldn't have even been elected. Like, I'd have been disqualified from running.
Right.
But she is allowed to be the type of American who can say that kind of stuff and still wield power.
I mean, we saw it in that last guy, right?
Yeah. Like, dude.
Say whatever we want to say.
And we all got a case of it if we were whites.
Yep.
If Obama were white, they wouldn't have done this. If Obama were white, he would have done that. If Obama were white, And so I realized that, and I understand all of these firsts now, right? You got the first gay person in the cabinet, you got the first black woman here, you got the first woman there,
yes.
You got the. I understand the role of all of these firsts. You are the first non-white man to be equipped to wield white power. Congratulations. Because that's what we all want. That's what we all want. We want the ability to wield white power. I mean, Doc, back in the day of Henry McNeil Turner, that's what them Negroes was talking about in terms of why they were supporting the Spanish-American War. These Negroes were supporting the Spanish-American War because they felt that, in short, they felt that you said it like promote the black press was to promote expansion and imperialism. And some editors argued that expansion would offer African Americans more opportunities than they had in the United States. Quote, "We believe in Imperial America. Negro editors should encourage the expansion idea since it means the opening up of avenues for employment of members of the race. It gives us a chance to wield white power. We can't wield white power here. So maybe if we go conquer somewhere, we'll go over there and white folks will trust us over there to be white power." So it's like
Yeah.
we are still a dismembered people.
Yeah.
So why are we offering up our history to serve them when it needs to serve us? I'm not saying it can't do both. I'm not saying it can't do both. Our history is powerful.
It is.
I'm saying we've been doing it one way for a long ass time.
Yeah, it's time to go deeper now.
We've been
Time to
we've
do
been
some.
we've been using Black history to help America accept us for generations now, and it ain't worked. January 6th done showed us that all the Black History months in the world haven't worked.
Jesus saves, though. Jesus
He
saves.
does,
Jesus saves. Don't
does,
forget
he
that.
does. Thanks be to God. Because if it was left up to us, brother, woo, we wouldn't stand a chance.
We would.
I'm just saying, as I look at Black history, man, I'm like, man, I get irked in my stomach every time I hear that white folks talk about Black history, man.
Yeah.
Not because they
And
shouldn't, right? But because they're not talking about it for what it teaches them
yeah,
about themselves.
I'll tell you what irks me is everything that you said in terms of how we, who are the who are the victims. I hate to use that word, but I'm going to use it. We victimize ourselves to not remember who we are, and we victimize ourselves to misuse the purpose that Carter G. Woodson was doing in those 3 weeks.
Man, here's what you're helping me to understand, and here's what we need to be saying about remembering, right? Because you said it earlier about brothers and sisters on the plantation being out there in the sun, being broken in mind, body, and spirit, being literally think about an individual person being dismembered, mind, body, and spirit through the process of day in, day out bondage. And that person was made to be seen as less than human, made to be seen as all kinds of things, as not good. We are still traumatized by the definition of Black as not good. We have not been remembered. We have not remembered our ancestors such that our ancestors in our minds are good, strong, worthy, life-filled people touched by the Imago Dei. We may say, oh, they were not slaves, they were enslaved, but we still have not remembered their personhood. We still leave our ancestors dry bones strewn across the valley. We ourselves are still dry bones strewn across the valley. We have not been remembered. So it's like if we had an either or. We cannot count on the both and. By God's grace, yes, indeed, it could be a both and. But if we had to plan for an either or, which either or would you want? As I see our condition, man, look, America's condition is bad. I'm not saying that it's not bad. There is a charge to keep that we have, indeed. And I also see our condition. And I know that our condition has been thrust upon us in large part with the blessing and sanctioning and intentionality of America. I'm like, where does it come into our mind that the first thing we have to do as free people is prove to America that we're worthy of being citizens? Dude, y'all gotta prove to me that I should want to be a citizen of your country. After what y'all just did to me, why should I want head over heels trying to prove to you that I'm worthy of your acceptance? But you see, what I believe is we saw Mass's house. We saw all the nice things that they had. We saw all the things that they were able to do in white society.
We want it.
Oh, man. I
We
want
want that.
I want my chance to get some of them things.
The shoes on your feet, I want it.
Woo!
The horse you riding, I want it.
Uh-huh.
The house you live in, I want it.
Dismembered.
Wow.
And from that position, from that psychology, from that psychosis, what are we actually bringing? So that's my thing, bro. And you know, as we go on through Black History Month, Doc, I kind of want to, I kind of want us to explore that. I know we supposed to, by God's grace, have Dr. Tyree Anderson on, maybe next week, maybe a couple weeks after. I don't know. You know, as somebody who focuses on Reconstruction history, I look forward to chopping it up around those same lines with him. Like, what does Reconstruction mean? We know the failure of Reconstruction. We know what Reconstruction meant politically. What should Reconstruction mean for us, the Black church? You know what I mean? What does Reconstruction look like? Okay, the government failed in Reconstruction. You know, he's a Black church history person too. So, okay, the Black church, the American country failed in Reconstruction, dropped the ball. What happened with the Black church? You know, what is the Black church's role in reconstructing the identity of Blackness? What is history's role in reconstructing the identity of Blackness? Is the reconstruction of the identity of Blackness more important, less important, on the same level of importance as the reconstruction of the American identity? Do I need is America coming to understand that Black history is part of their history too, as important as us reconstructing our identity? I don't know. I would say no, but you know,
Depends upon your lens.
it does. It does. That's why I say. That's why I say I would say no. But the lenses, the lenses in my glasses, you know, I would say no. But I'm not saying that anyone else can't say what they want to say. You know what I mean? I'm saying we have never, as a people, come together as a people of our own accord, without the funding nor at the behest of whiteness, to determine for ourselves
Right.
any of these things.
Right. It first starts with us.
That's what I would think.
First start with our community.
That's what I would think.
And that's the point that we're driving.
Yeah.
Because I want to be clear, you know, and say that's what we got to do.
Yeah.
We can't let anybody else determine to us what that looked like. And especially if they don't have lived history with our dismemberment.
Man, look, you will never see. Damn sure not in large scale. I'm sure someplace in some small town or something they've done it. But you would, and I'm sure you don't see in the Black History Month nor any time any commemoration of Black insurrections.
Nope.
Look, the biggest commemoration of a Civil War battle in Florida takes place in either Live Oak or Lake City. I don't know, someplace around there. I don't know where I was when I was there. It is the battle that the Confederacy won.
Yep.
So white folks are so set in their identity, so established of their identity, so in their sense of self, that they are free at taxpayer expense to commemorate a battle where the nation was defeated. And you won't see a black person publicly celebrating Nat Turner's rebellion, Denmark Vesey,
No.
Gabriel Prosser. You know,
Yeah.
we won't celebrate those. So what are we saying? That those were bad? What are black people saying? That they were wrong? What do we believe? And if we don't believe that they were wrong, why are we afraid? Why in Black History Month you won't see no specials on? It ain't like Birth of a Nation. The Birth of a Nation is going to be playing on every network during Black History Month.
Right. Right.
They may show you Harriet because this watered down version doesn't really attack whiteness too much.
And what we don't know about Harriet is, has she not got hit in the head when she was a teenager? Guess what she would have been? In the Alleghenies. Because she was still a child after Nat Turner's insurrection. So she would have been right in the Alleghenies with John Brown. But you notice, white folk don't celebrate John Brown.
Yet they will tell you that Black history is American history, but they ain't gonna celebrate John Brown.
And John Brown is as American as they come.
Beyond it, that is the quintessential
Right.
American because he
Yep.
did what he did not have no parts in doing. You know what I mean? It's like it wasn't his fight, so to speak.
Yep.
And he
Before
was
the January. Go ahead.
he was willing to give his life.
Yep. Yep.
So if Black history is American history, why are we not safe or free to speak about the history? We only get to speak about what whiteness tells us they're comfortable with us speaking about. So we get to talk about the sit-ins and the bus boycotts and, you know.
Yeah, we get to relive those moments.
Yeah.
We get to walk the same and march and parade with the bands and all of that stuff with no violence.
But we don't get to remember that some of us decided it was time to take lives for this. Give us liberty or give us death. Which is a very American thing. We are not allowed to embrace that heritage, that American heritage. The American heritage that says give me liberty or give me death. The American heritage that says join or die. The American heritage that says do not tread on me.
And this is where, Jabril, this is what I'm going to say. This is what makes Black people American. Because you said something very critical. If we look at that Selma march on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, there were folk waiting with their batons, their fire hoses, their dogs. And you know what we did? Our folks still crossed that daggone bridge. Because we believe in that American notion. Give us liberty. And it wasn't no give me, it was give us. Give us the liberty or we'll die for it.
But this is what I'm saying, though. Here's what I'm saying, though. Here's the nuance. They'll allow us to embrace give us liberty or give us death passively. But we won't ever get to be Patrick Henry.
And we were not passive.
But this is what. But wait a minute. This is the image that they are comfortable with. No. It was not. It seems passive, but it was not passive. There is nothing passive about putting yourself in harm's way.
Yeah, you're right, though. You're right what you're saying.
But it is the image that they are comfortable with. Nat Turner said, give me liberty or give me death.
He said it.
Denmark Vesey said, give me liberty or give me death. Gabriel Prosser said, give me liberty or give me death.
Yep.
In the same way that them early American revolutionaries said, give me liberty or give me death.
Yep.
But they don't allow us to embrace that strand of American, heritage. And
we speak more on why they won't allow it. You should speak more on that. Really, really. I know but I just want you to speak to it, Doc. I'm going to be Baptist today. I'm going to be a Baptist preacher. I want you to speak to that.
They won't allow it because it goes back to power. We can wield white power, maybe, once they trust us. If they don't trust us to wield white power, if they got to make sure that we going to wield white power the way they want us to, you know they ain't going to let black power exist. Because black power, they don't have control over. And everything is about their control. Again, what do we believe? You know what I mean? What do we really believe about this thing? What is this history for? Because so long as power must remain in their control, all we are celebrating is our pathway to a white power. And there will always be limitations on our greatness. And that's why they won't let us embrace black power. So that there can always be limitations on who we can be and who we are. If it's their power, they can always subjugate us. We don't know what Kamala wants to do. We don't know the mind of Kamala. We don't know. She may be, in her heart, she may want to do all kinds of things for black folk. What I do know is she can't. I know that she can only do what white folks allow her to do. It won't matter what she wants to do. She can only do what white power allows her to do. And we know this. All of us know this. We all know that if we step out of the box that white power has assigned us to, white power will take back our power. But the celebration of black history was for black empowerment.
Yes.
Not temporary empowerment that comes from whites and can be taken away from whites. They are not the Lord. They do not get to give and take away our power. Our power comes from the Lord God Almighty, who created us in his image. And only he can give and only he can take away. And for me, in my understanding of Carter G, it was about empowering us. It was about empowerment for a broken people, a people who thought they had no hope, a people who thought they had no strength, no power, no authority. It was to give us a sense of self that told us that we are able. We are more than conquerors, to use biblical language, right? To tell us, not to tell them. So that's how I look at it, Doc. That's the struggle that I have, right? Like, will we squander our history trying to make friends with white folks? Or will we actually use our history to remember ourselves? I mean, we use in our history to make friends with white folks in hopes that they might remember us. That seems like some long-winded roundabout shit to me, Doc.
They can't even remember themselves.
That seems like a circuitous journey for no reason, Doc. Why do I need to present you to me? Why do I need to present me to you so that you can remember me, when I can just present me to myself and remember myself?
That's the greatest call that we, as descendants of American child of slavery, can do for us, is remember ourselves. So that's the greatest thing we can do to reconnect us to the image of God. It's remember ourselves.
To make ourselves a member again of the beloved community.
Yes, sir.
To make ourselves a member again of humanity in the image of God. Understanding, not expecting them to make us. Why the hell would I expect you to make me a member of the image of God? You were the one who stripped me of it.
Reverend!
I don't need America to embrace black history. It is in America's best interest to embrace black history. Because by embracing black history, America might be able to heal itself. Might be able to become a more perfect union and the beloved community. But I don't need that to happen. What I need to happen is for me and mine to be remembered.
Reverend. Reverend.
And so I want to use our history to remember myself, to remember my family, to remember the generations of us who have been dismembered by this thing called white supremacy. And once that remembering has been effectuated, once that remembering, I'm not saying that that remembering ever stops. I'm saying once that remembering has been effectuated, has started to take hold. If I were to roll two stones down a snowy mountain to become an avalanche, I would first roll the stone for us. And once I get that one rolling, then I'll roll the stone for the rest. But that's the racist in me, right? As Garvey would say, race first. You know? But I know we so anti-racist that we are anti-black. We don't understand that in the context of white supremacy, anti-racism means being anti-yourself. And so in the context of white supremacy, anti-racism means being anti-black. And so in Black History Month, we are reminding ourselves of all the reasons why we don't want to be black. Of all the things, we've come so far. Look how far we've come. We're so glad that we don't have to be like our black ass parents who had to sit at lunch counters in the back. Look how far we've come. We whiter than them. We more white than them. We don't have to sharecrop no more. Masters still exploit us. The corporate plantations still exploit us. We still make 70 cents on the dollar, but at least it don't feel like sharecropping no more.
And our parents telling us, baby, look at you.
Look at you now.
Like me. You better than me.
You better than me. Look at you.
Go ahead. So bad.
Calvin got a job. So that's where I'm at, bro. As we step into Black History Month in the context of these times, and you know, there's a strand that could go and just look at all the ways that these times match up with the history of our experience with America, whereby we should know that the Senate will not convict Donald Trump, that these white supremacists will still remain emboldened, that you see all of these executive orders Biden signed to roll back Trump-era policies. You ain't see him release an executive order to roll back his own 93 crime bill. But we can't ask about that.
That ain't our place.
That ain't our place. That's the thing. There we go, right? That ain't our place. We know our place, and we gonna stay in it. That's what Carter G says, right? When you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one out for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary.
So that last little line again, his what will make it necessary?
His education makes this necessary.
What you say? Good God Almighty. We got these degrees.
Woo!
We don't know.
Doctor!
God,
I am the doctor so and so.
right. I am the doctor, and don't know a daggone thing but your place.
Yep. And how to find it.
Yep, and how to stay in it.
Yep. And so at that point, you know what I mean, and that's the danger, right? In
Mm-hmm.
letting white America control the narrative of our history, because then the history with which they educate us keeps us in our place. So we know our place is to forever be marching for justice. That's what we do. And every year we're gonna see, keep your eyes on the prize, hold
And we're
on.
gonna sing "We Shall Overcome."
We're gonna do it all the time, and so it refreshes our memory that this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is who we are. So I don't know, y'all. I look at Black history for the remembering of ourselves. I won't say that I always looked at it like this. As over time, as years have come, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Meeting brothers like yourself has helped me to now
Iron
take a
sharpens iron,
different.
doc.
Yeah.
That's why I say you do the work. We are doing, you know, having conversations like this is the depths of that work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we know that we live in a society, you know, as we talk like the talented 10th, for what the boys talk about the talented 10th, we know that the 90th of our society don't have time to engage in these types of conversations. And those who they are turning to for guidance through this wilderness ain't having these conversations. And we're failing still to remember ourselves. We are still hoping to prove our worthiness. We are still hoping to use our history to prove our worthiness, such that America might finally do right by us and remember us. And I'm saying that even if our history was effective in calling them to remember us, the mere fact that we did not remember ourselves but had someone else remember us would put us in a subjugated position and leave us no better off than we were. Because the remembering would be temporary. I mean, those who remember know what threads to pull to dismember. And so all they will do is remember you so that you can feel good and do whatever they want you to do for a while. And the minute they are through with that, they will pull a thread and dismember you again. Shouldn't we be tired of that? Shouldn't we want to look at things differently? Shouldn't we want to approach things differently? Shouldn't we want to approach specifically our history differently? If our history is so powerful, as I believe it is, y'all, if our history is so powerful, why has it not yet freed us?
Mm. Mm.
If our history is so powerful as to transform some place as degraded as America, which we believe it can, we believe that if America would embrace Black history, America would be a better place. So if America can be transformed by embracing Black history, why has it not transformed us? Are we in more of a deplorable state than America? Because we've been studying black history for what, 50 years now. And I'm not going to say we should abandon studying black history. No, 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 no. What I'm going to say is clearly the way that we ever studying black history ain't been effective. And I'm inviting us to consider exploring black history for a more foundational purpose, for a more selfish purpose, for a purpose that is for us. Not for us, ... A purpose that is for us. Not for us to be accepted by America. Not for us to prove to... No. For us. And to be comfortable with the sufficiency of that reason. The charge to keep we have, brothers and sisters. A God to glorify. A never dying soul to save and fitted for the sky. Believe me, brothers and sisters, ain't nothing that I'm saying that we have not come a long way, for we have. But we still have quite a ways yet to go. So let us march on till victory is won.